Good evening, everybody. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the South Haven City Council. It's Monday, August the 16th, 2021. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And in lieu of a regular invocation, we do not have somebody here this evening. If you would just observe a moment of silence, please. Thank you. And now if you'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Megan.
Jeff Arnold.
Here.
Chris Campbell.
Here.
Joe Reeser.
Here.
Steve Schlock.
Here.
George Sleeper.
Here.
Scott Smith.
Here.
Letitia Wilkins.
I make a motion to excuse Councilmember Wilkins.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second to excuse Letitia Wilkins. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
She's excused. Next, we have an update from our Palisades Project Director, John Fall. So, good evening. Oh, I guess I jumped ahead, sorry. We have the approval of the agenda, sorry. Let's do that first.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? It's approved. Very good. Sorry, John, I got you excited up and down. All right, Palisades Project Director, Mr. John Fall. So good evening, John.
I need the exercise, so thank you for the opportunity.
Got it. Up and down.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Thanks for having me tonight. Just as a point of introduction, my name is John Fall. I'm the Palisades Project Director working for Van Buren County. I thought I would just give you, I think you have, I'm not going to display it, but in your packet, you have an update of the Palisades Recovery Plan that I've been working with. So I thought I'd kind of go through that and then what I've been doing subsequent to issuing this document, and then answer any questions that you might have of me. Basically, I've been working with county government over 25 years now, either between Van Buren or Kalamazoo County, lifelong, for the most part, resident of Van Buren County, so this is very near and dear to my heart. I do remember showing my age back in the 70s when Palisades was just starting to be developed, and not knowing much about that in high school. It's interesting to see me at this stage of my career working on the closure of it. And the closure is very, very important to us, not just the county, but here more locally with the city and the township of both South Haven and Covert, because of the impact that the closure has. As you know, it's been it's a document that you have. It's a high-paying anchor with high-paying high-paying careers, tax base, community involvement of the community members, and it's getting ready to close. So what are we going to do about that? Technically, we have to follow the NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission regulations that allows for 65 years for the plant to close. It's presently owned by Entergy, as you probably know, and Entergy has asked, is engaged in negotiations with a company named Holtec to do the decommissioning. Holtec is a specialized company that addresses nuclear power plants closures and decommissioning, and has, I think, started at least 3, if not 4 jobs, mostly in the East Coast. They think they can reduce the time to decommission the plant from 65 years to 20 years, do it safely within budget, and get the land back to productive use rather than being restricted. So really, what are the issues? And I've touched upon those, the high-paying jobs, approximately 600 high-paying technical scientific jobs. During the refueling, about every 18 months, another 1,000 jobs, and that's important because of the secondary impact of suppliers for the people to come in and stay in the hotels and use the restaurants and whatnot. From my administrator role, and maybe I should step back, my previous role prior to this, I was the county administrator, and the taxable income was very important to me in my budget. When this first started 2 or 3 years ago, the devaluation of the plant, they were paying approximately $8 million to taxable entities throughout the county. So that's a huge impact. When it's all said and done, it's probably going to be closer to $1 million, and that goes to the township, the school, and all of the other ancillary millages that are countywide with roads, public safety, ISD, those sort of entities. And I think, it's more than just the jobs and the taxable income, but the employees who live here and spend their money here, that has a multiplier impact. And we're in the process of doing a study, but estimates range up to $200 million of total economic impact that the plant produces for the area. And then you have the social fabric of the people who live here are members of the community, go to school, participate in the civic groups and faith-based organizations. So it's just a huge impact, not just monetarily, not just jobs, but really for the fabric of the area. So the County Board of Commissioners has taken a proactive approach. 4 or 5 years ago, they started funding an economic development director that turned into Marka Van Buren, that I think you're a member of. And also then they just recently have asked me to spearhead the effort of trying to coordinate the different stakeholders that are addressing this issue. And so what I've done so far, basically the biggest step has been for the county to form what was called a community advisory panel, or a CAP. And being Palisades, it's the Palisades Community Advisory Panel, consists of 32 members, I believe, that represent different districts or different stakeholder groups in the county. And that group will do 2 things. One, oversee the physical decommissioning of the plant, and that's the demolition of the building, the safe storage of the fuels, working with the NRC and Energy or Holtec, whoever the operator might be at that point, and provide a forum for that group to explain what the plan is and where they are in the plan in a consistent and transparent fashion. So it allows for the NRC and Holtec to explain what's going on and receive feedback from the stakeholders. And it also provides for communication the other way, too, for stakeholders to bring questions to those entities. And I think it's very important that this is done transparently. It's a huge issue. Nuclear power plants are of a concern environmentally and safety, and it's very important that we do this in a transparent fashion. And then the other side of the coin is the social-economic coin, or part of the other side of the coin. And I've been working with Southwest Michigan Planning Commission. They've written a grant in conjunction with Connexus to address this issue. And the first step is to analyze what the impact is, identify gaps, and then work with state and federal funders to I guess, fund programs to address those gaps. And that's really what we're starting on at this point. So we're in the nascent stages of setting up this PCAP. First meeting probably will be in September, if not October. The grant will start picking up. We'll have a website to talk about what we're trying to do and gather information, identify the gaps in what the closure of Palisades might be, and identify funding sources to address those issues. So basically, my job really is to, as someone said, sort of herd the cats, a lot of different stakeholders, put them together, connect people that might not have known that someone else is working on it, and really try to make this the best we can out of a situation that's not within our control, but certainly has negative impacts. And I think that's pretty much it for my summary, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight.
Question, John? Oh, go ahead.
John, thank you for that briefing. You mentioned something about a study on the impact. Do you know when that study might be completed?
I was just in a meeting on that today, and they're working with U of M has a group called the EGI, the Economic Growth Institute, I believe, and they're working with the Connexus statisticians to develop that plan. I'm hoping it's yet this fall. So.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And then I think just so everyone's aware, the goal is to just keep everybody abreast over the next several months, because the plant's going to close in May of 2022. It's going to power down.
Yeah.
We know that Entergy has been working hard to either find people work. We have some people that are retiring, so we also have folks who will continue on with Holtec. So there are a lot of different moving pieces. Just so the public's aware, we will continue to keep you abreast as this transpires over the next year.
That's true. To that point, there are approximately 600 employees spread throughout the Van Buren, Berrien, not so much Cass, but Ottawa, Kent, and then 200 or so, 250, I think, will be retained to do the decommissioning process. Another 50 might retire. So the gap is, what do we do with the employees that choose not to retire or stay or relocate with Entergy somewhere else? Working with Michigan Works and the state to set up a joint action committee to help the employees who choose to stay here and need assistance. And it's not just the job market. Again, it's what I was talking about. We want these people who are members of the community to stay here and be productive members. And I don't want to be so crass of just say it's about jobs. It's very important, but keeping community members here is really the bottom line, I think.
Well said. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, question. Of the 450 net job losses, do you have it broken out by city? How many are losing jobs in each city? So I'd like to know in South Haven how many people are impacted. That's the first question. The second question is, what is the company doing to retrain these people who are not retiring, who've only worked for that nuclear power plant? What can they do as far as another job? And then the third question is, the plant, I know nothing about it physically, but there's buildings, there's all kind of plants there and buildings. Can they be used with other industries that could easily come here and use those buildings? And if so, can the state put money up to incite those companies to come here?
Okay. Let me see how
That's
my
three
memory
questions,
works.
sorry.
So the 150 employees, I don't have a clean breakout by zip code, probably the easiest one, or MSA area of where the employees are. I've been told anecdotally the majority of people affected are in the South Haven zip code. So that's a main concern. I think a lot of the employees who are staying are probably spread throughout the three areas I mentioned, Berrien, Van Buren, and Allegan. The ones retiring, I don't know, but anecdotally, it's the 150 people remaining. The majority are in the South Haven zip code. So that's the first question. What is the company?
Wait, so then we're going to get hit the hardest.
I believe so.
Yeah. And remember, 49090 is spread, that's the township, that's the city, that's surrounding too. That's not just the
All right.
city proper. So we don't have that breakdown yet.
Or 9090, is that the?
Correct. Yeah, it's
Okay.
not just the city proper.
Okay.
So,
So, yeah, I mean, that's being an employee of the county. I'm concerned about the whole county, including the city and the township and the surrounding areas, of course. What is Entergy doing? They currently are working with Michigan Works now to train people. They're holding that information very close to their vest because they have a nuclear plant to operate, and they don't want people to leave. They've been, I believe, doing retention bonuses, and I don't want to speak for Entergy, and I mean, they can certainly speak for themselves, but what they have told me is they have worked very hard to retain people throughout the operating period. So we're looking more at a May date of crossing the Rubicon, if you will. Does that answer your question? Or no, what are they doing to train the people? That was the more specific question. Well, some of the people I think are probably going just directly south to Cook. Others are relocating to other Entergy plants. And then the remainder that are not retiring and staying, that's the plan that I'll be working with Entergy and the state to try to develop training programs and identify opportunities for those employees. So that question
Then
two.
the last question about the buildings,
yeah.
the infrastructure, can it be used in another industry or another company? And then if so, can we create an incentive? It's cheaper to spend money to bring another company to an exact industry than it is to go look across the country for a complete new business and a new industry, I would think.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll answer that in a couple of ways, if I could. So the physical plant of Palisades Nuclear Power Plant, I believe, has to be demolished in its entirety because of the potential contamination. My understanding is when they close for a couple of years, the existing fuel that's being used goes into what they call wet storage, and that cools down for a couple of years. And then I believe their plan is to consolidate this new wet storage with the existing pad and combine it to one that's further away from the lake. That's so it'd all be consolidated in one sector of the Palisades compound, which I believe is around 400 acres. Then the next step will be to demolish everything else and have it disposed of properly. I think just depending on the radiation level, and again, I'm not a scientist, I'm just kind of relaying what's been told to me, that concrete, steel, asbestos, all that will be disposed of as hazardous waste, and with the idea of creating a usable area outside of the storage pad. So there won't be existing buildings. However, I think the most important thing we need to consider are the transmission lines, because those can always be used. They have a big transfer station there, and I think Nuke Generating uses the same transmission lines. So it's a possibility that area could be used for power generation. I don't know. Now we're getting into it's private land, so what does the private land want to do? It's in Covert Township. What does Covert Township want to do with the land? But I think the ancillary answer to that, too, is we're not going to get easily, and I don't know if we want to, another, I guess if someone came down and said, we're going to hire 600 people, then pay $8 million in taxes, I wouldn't turn them down. But I think our greater likelihood of success would be to continue what we're doing, trying to improve the area where we can attract new businesses, but more importantly, what can we do to enhance the businesses of the people we have? How do we help them grow? How do we help them stay here? How do we help them expand? And what we can do to attract new businesses. I'm hoping this grant will help us answer all three of those questions. So what are the strengths of the area? We have a very strong agricultural market. We have distribution points. We have other industries in the area, and that we can just help expand, I think. So that's what we're trying to identify with that grant, I believe, to do what we can and help get some funding with some technical support.
Very good. Thank you again.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Next, we're going to have an update from the South Haven Area Emergency Services Executive Director, Mr. Brandon Hinz. And Brandon, thank you for coming. Per our request, sorry.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Good evening, council members. Thanks for letting me stop by tonight and give you an update on what we've been up to. Just first off, a quick rundown on numbers. To date, South Haven Area Emergency Services has responded to 1,663 calls for service. 512 of those calls were in South Haven City, 196 of those calls were fire and rescue related in South Haven City. Our fire calls we also have rescue calls lumped into the same numbers too. So we haven't had 196 structure fires, as you know. But year to date, that is 283 more calls for service than we had in 2020, which was our busiest year on record. And that was 150 calls higher than the year before that. So we've been busy, but our members have handled the increased call volume with extreme dedication, very positive attitudes, and professionalism. We have a great group of folks that I'm very proud of. They're very experienced, very multifaceted, and dedicated. Along with providing fire and EMS services, we also we have an inspection program, which you all know, that we perform commercial pre-plans, fire code inspections, and short-term rental inspections, which brings me to the article I'd like to share. This relates to the importance of inspections and pre-plans. South Haven Area Emergency Services was dispatched recently to one of our local hotels for an early morning carbon monoxide alarm. Upon arrival, it was noted there was a concentration of 10 parts per million CO in the hallway upon arrival, and it had decreased as the personnel had made their way further into the building. Shays members asked hotel employees to initiate the evacuation process and exit the building as our fire personnel donned their self-contained breathing apparatus and furthered their investigation. Fire department personnel found the greatest concentration of carbon monoxide in the mechanical room, 150 parts per million. It was determined that an exhaust pipe from a natural gas-fired hot water heater had detached and was blowing all the byproducts of combustion into the mechanical room. Adjacent rooms were reading 40 to 50 parts per million carbon monoxide. For an example, sustained exposure to carbon monoxide at 150 parts per million will cause disorientation, unconsciousness, and possible death. All residents and staff were evacuated from the hotel. Fire department personnel mitigated all hazards, ventilated the entire building, and checked all the rooms for residual CO, carbon monoxide, and allowed residents and staff to re-enter the building. We have added Shays has added 2 inspector positions over the last 4 years to assist the deputy chief with fire code inspections, pre-plans, and short-term rental inspection responsibilities. For instance, 2021 to date, our inspection program has completed 155 commercial building pre-plans in the city, 86 fire code inspections, and 326 short-term rental inspections. This program has proven to be very fruitful and imperative for the safety of our residents and visitors. It also helps in familiarizing our Shays team with the layouts of our many businesses and challenges that may arise if we're called upon to respond. And pre-plans are uploaded to iPads, which we have in all of our frontline apparatus. If we're arriving on scene, we can address them and the pre-plans that are already in there. This incident's a very good example of the importance of fire code inspections. Smoke alarms, CO alarms, exit signs are all on a long list of items to be inspected in a commercial building. And I've been with our inspectors, and they're very diligent about it. It goes well past beyond inspections. Anywhere they go, they're hitting exit lamps and checking fire extinguisher tags, which is good. Our inspectors verify that these are present, that alarms are present, and exit signs are lit up and present. The hotel referenced above, for instance, was just inspected in early June 2021, and if CO alarms were not present or not operating properly, it could have proven fatal, no doubt. I commend our inspection team, Deputy Chief Keith Beerhalter, Assistant Inspector Stephen Cavadas, Assistant Inspector Rex Hanner. I also commend our on-duty staff and paid-on-call members that responded that early morning and handled the situation with professionalism and expertise. Captain Ron Ridley, Firefighter-Paramedic Dawn Hintz, Firefighter-Paramedic Zachary Kenrich, Lieutenant Brian Horan, and Firefighter Matt Day. As stated, in the article, this is an excellent example of our pre-plans at work, our inspections at work. It's something we've been hitting very hard the last 2 or 3 years, and it's proven very fruitful. Again, I appreciate the opportunity for letting me slide by and lend me your time to give you an update. And as always, we're extremely grateful for all the support we receive from our community and our residents and that we serve. So, can I answer any questions? Yes, sir.
Sorry, one question.
That's fine.
Months ago, a resident spoke about trying to save the city money on short-term rental fees, and the suggestion was having a third party do inspections. Listening to you and listening to what you said about the hotel, that you really save lives in all the inspections you do. And I know this is almost an obvious question, but would you say the city is better served paying a little more money to have you do the inspections than a third-party operator?
I'm a little biased, of course, but I've worked with Deputy Chief Bierhalter for 20-plus years, and he is very thorough, very diligent. Our assistant inspectors, Stephen Kavadas and Rex Hayner, are both as well very diligent, very thorough, and I don't know cost-wise what a third party, what that would run, but from my experience, I think you'd be better off served by. Like I said, I can't. They're animals. They're I mean they're good. They're very good. They're very. They have a lot of knowledge that Keith has passed on to Rex, and has been passed on by our previous deputy chiefs as well. And there's no. We've had incidents, as you know, in our area where we've had carbon monoxide incidents where people have died. And when you get a big establishment like that, it's a little scary. And I'm very glad that they're out there checking them out.
Yeah, so it's critical to do the inspections. We know that, and we've proven that, not just in this one. I know you shared stories of residential structures where you've had carbon monoxide, and obviously the importance of smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors. I guess I'll just say, again, thank you for all that you do. The inspections, I've been on a commercial and some residential ones, and to your point, they're extremely thorough. They are learning the lay of the land, and they're not just doing the inspections. I mean, if they see other things, I know I've seen your guys out knocking down grass away from fire hydrants, which don't play hide the fire hydrant. If you have a fire hydrant, do not try to landscape it so it's hidden.
That is troublesome.
It's a bad game to play. So, but anyway, but your guys, I know guys and ladies, sorry, are out there doing more than just what's on that checklist. So, and they're
Yes.
educating people, and if something's not there, they're telling them how to do it. We know we get grief because they have to do it, but it saves lives. So I just thank you for saving lives. I'll leave it at that.
And they're members of our community, and it shows.
Is there anything you can attribute to the increase in the calls, constant increase in the calls over the last 3 years?
I don't know. We've sat down and mulled
Are they
over the numbers.
categorized out or anything like that, or?
We've actually ran more fire-related and rescue-related incidents this year. I don't know. We actually took March and April of last year because of COVID were very slow. I think we were 130, 140 calls per month, which usually March and April are around 170, 180. And we still ended up the year 150 ahead. And then now this year, 283 ahead already. So I don't know. We've tried to mulling over the numbers too, and knock on wood, our fire prevention program has been outstanding, and we haven't had as many structure fires as we did like when it first started on the department. And I think they attribute that with better inspections and suppressions in buildings and that as well. But we can't put our finger on it. I don't know if it's more visitors, and we do see an uptick in calls in the summertime when we have more residents in town and visitors. But it's been a busy last couple of years. I think we've added since I began in '98. If this year continues on course, about 1,000 calls per year.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. That takes us to the consent agenda, items A through F.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through F.
Second?
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call.
Arnold,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Schlack,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. That takes us to old business. The City Council will be asked to consider the following actions regarding the creation of a new commercial rehabilitation district. First, we need to hold a public hearing. So I can get a motion to open that up.
I make a motion to hold a public hearing, open a public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The public hearing is open. All right, who's going to take the lead here?
I'm going to defer over here to Griffin and Nick to kind of get us started and explain why we're here and give us the essentials.
Thank you, Kate. Members of City Council, appreciate the opportunity. Just get started today with a little bit of background, and then we'll go ahead and turn it over to Nick, and we're happy to do what we can to answer any questions. But this evening, City Council is being asked to consider a series of actions related to a proposed commercial rehab district. This would not be the city's first commercial rehabilitation district. The original one was established in 2018. And if you'd like to look at the screen, if I can put it up, what you will see is the existing commercial rehab district encompasses much of what you would think of as the downtown business area, as well as several of the businesses on the north side, as well as starting to go down the Broadway and LaGrange corridor. If you can see on the left-hand side of this map, the area circled, this is roughly the area that is being proposed for a new commercial rehab district, with the red dot being the Bundy's Bakery property. This proposed district was brought before you all at a previous meeting at the original request of the owner of the Bundy's Bakery property, as they are interested in rehabbing the existing commercial bakery space and building residential space on top. And they were interested in this potential economic development tool, as all of the other businesses that currently exist on the north side and most other in the general area are in the existing district. Working with the city attorney and reviewing the enabling legislation, we found that there is not an existing tool for amending an existing district, so we had to move forward with the process of creating a new district. That request was brought before City Council, I believe, 2 meetings ago. At that point, City Council gave staff the direction to initiate that process per the legislation, and this evening, the resolution to formally create the district is brought before all of you. That's a little bit about how we got here. Just as a friendly reminder, if a district is to be created, the application itself from Bundy's Bakery would need to be brought back at a future meeting, where City Council at that time would review the application itself and would at that time have the option to either consider granting or not granting the abatement that would be enabled by creating a commercial rehab district. This evening, we're just talking about whether or not council would like to formally create this new North Shore Commercial Rehab District.
Griffin hit most of the points that I had to make in these initial comments. As Griffin said, this particular statute doesn't provide an express process for amending an existing district. Several of the other tax abatement statutes do provide an amendment process. So looking at the language as compared to other statutes, we thought the best course to proceed would be to create a new district rather than trying to essentially make up a process to amend the existing district. Council's received quite a bit of correspondence on this item, some of that raising legal items, and I think those will probably be addressed in public comment as well, and I can respond to things as they come up or after public comment. But just a couple of things to touch on. One is that from our perspective, from a legal perspective and staff perspective, this is a council-initiated item. It was brought to council for the July meeting at the request of a property owner, and then council by motion directed staff to proceed with scheduling the public hearing. So one of the ways that a district can be created is by the initiative of city council. There's a separate petition process from property owners. That's not how this item is proceeding. This was something that council directed staff to follow through with. So we do believe that this is a legal procedure from that respect. The district is at least 3 acres in size. That's all the statute requires. It doesn't specify whether that has to be in the form of parcels or right-of-way. All it says is in area. So we believe that statutory requirement is met. And finally, there may be some confusion as to whether this affects zoning or is in any way related to zoning. It's really not. This is a tax abatement statute. It has its own definitions of what commercial property means. Commercial property, as used in the statute, is not tied to zoning. It is defined to include, among other things, a property that's been used for a commercial purpose at least 15 years. The property owner who had asked the city to look at this tool meets that statutory qualification. So we are compliant with the statutory scheme in that regard. And because of the confusion about zoning, after the initial packet was released, we went back and added some new language to the resolution just to make clear that this item doesn't really have anything to do with zoning. It's not meant to signal a future intent to rezone this property, this area to commercial. It's just an acknowledgement that there's already businesses here, or at least one property here, that qualifies for this abatement as written in the statute, even with the current zoning, which is largely RM1 in this area. So those are my initial comments, and I'm happy to answer questions as more things come up in public comment.
Okay. To your last point, though, this is the only property that qualifies as the bakery.
As far as I know, I haven't gone property by property, but that is my understanding.
Okay. All right, well, this is a public hearing, so why don't we go ahead. If you have comments, if you'd like to come up, state your name and address. You'll have up to 5 minutes, and we've got some folks here that can answer questions, but we can go ahead and come on
up. Good evening, and thank you for your time this evening. It is good to see you all again, in person no less. So, again, my name is Matt Van Dyke. I'm with Miller Johnson, 100 West Michigan Avenue, Kalamazoo, on behalf of the Water's Edge Condominium Association. We are here to object to the establishment of the Commercial Rehab District at 89 North Shore Drive in the heart of a residential neighborhood. Imposing this commercial redevelopment district in this neighborhood signals to potential developers that this area is primed for commercial development, when in fact nothing could be further from the truth. The proposed district violates Public Act 210, the purposes behind the act, sound planning practices, and the city's own master plan. First, the act provides these districts may be initiated either on the request of owners of 50% or more of the value of the property in the district, or on the city's own initiative. In this case, the request came from an owner who owns less than 1% in the district. The city staff may argue that the city is acting on its own initiative, but that is clearly not the case. Both the notice and the staff memo indicate that it was responding to a request from the developer. On the contrary, my client owns 87.15%, nearly 90% of the district, and is vehemently opposed to the establishment. The legislature clearly intended for those with skin in the game, value in the district, to have a meaningful say in whether or not such a district gets created on their property. And in this case, those with the most stake oppose it. Second, the district doesn't meet the area requirements in the act. In order to qualify, the district must either be 3 acres or contain a qualified retail food establishment. The city clearly believes that the Senko development project doesn't constitute a qualified food establishment, otherwise they wouldn't have included 3 acres in the district. However, even with my client's property included, the 3-acre minimum is not satisfied. Over half of the district contains public streets and public beach, property that is simply incapable of being developed. The inclusion of this property not only violates language of the statute, which speaks in terms of parcels and tracts, but it is facially absurd to include such acreage in the calculation. Why didn't the city just include 89 North Shore Drive and 2.9 acres of North Shore Drive itself? I mean, if we can get around the 3 acres by including streets and beaches, that would be a logical thing they could do, but of course that is not at all in keeping with the intent of the statute. The 3-acre minimum exists for a reason, and the beaches and the roads should not be included. Third, this is a residential neighborhood consisting both of multifamily condominiums and single-family cottages. The inclusion of the property in the commercial rehab district in this area is simply not appropriate. The Act does speak about multifamily, but the reason for that is the purpose of the Act was to facilitate development in dense urban areas where mixed-use multifamily is abundant. The North Shore area is an amazing part of South Haven, but it is certainly not a dense urban core. Finally, by granting Senco's request for a commercial rehab district here, the city is, in essence, aiding in the expansion of a prior legal nonconformity. The zoning ordinance does make allowance for the specific existing businesses existing at the time of the ordinance's adoption by permitting those specific uses to continue, a provision that is arguably subject to a spot zoning challenge. But in this case, however, the nature of the use of the structure will be fundamentally changing. The business operation is being renovated and expanded, while the building itself is being proposed to contain not only a bakery, but mixed-use residential as well. There is a fundamental difference between what exists today and what is being proposed. The former may enjoy certain protections under the ordinance, at least unless it's challenged, but the latter does not. By establishing this commercial rehab district, the city is essentially encouraging a violation of its own ordinance. And for what? So that the bakery can put up some residential units above its property. What economic development goal is achieved by that? In conclusion, the proposed district is not only not properly initiated, nor does it satisfy the area.
1 minute.
Thank you. Area use requirements of the Act. On those bases alone, it should not move forward. Beyond that, however, it works against sound planning practices of phasing out legal nonconformities, and indeed arguably operates to advance one, while simultaneously working against the city's own zoning ordinance and master plan, both of which identify this entire area as residential, by advertising to developers that there are tax breaks here for commercial development. We implore you, as owners of 90% of the value in this district, to reject this proposal. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yep. If you have any questions, I'll be available.
Anybody else? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Tom Seraphin, and I'm in Two Oak Court. My wife and I and my two sons. And I want to thank you, Mayor, and members of the council, ladies and gentlemen of the staff, for hearing us out tonight. Appreciate it. We received a letter 2 weeks ago that you are considering the request of 89 North Shore Drive, the establishment of a commercial rehabilitation district that would include all the homes on Oak Court within those boundaries. The Commercial Rehabilitation District was created by the Michigan Legislature to encourage investors and developers to rehab blighted commercial properties in need of being restored to the economically efficient condition that comes from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation fact sheet. Therefore, we are sincerely unsure why our neighborhood is being considered for this designation. We believe designating our neighborhood on Oak Court a commercial rehabilitation district is completely inappropriate and also endangers our neighborhood. We are not a commercial neighborhood, and we definitely are not in need of rehabilitation. We watched the video recording of the July 19th council meeting where this proposal was first discussed. It is troubling to us that not one person, the staff, council, or public, even mentioned the homes and properties that would be boxed into this district for the benefit of one business. Not a single word about the potential effects this could have on the overwhelming majority of tax-paying homeowners who live within the boundaries of this proposed commercial rehabilitation district. Our neighborhood is a stable mix of single-family homes and condos. Many of us have owned our properties for decades, and we pay premium property taxes for the privilege of living where we do. We have invested our life savings in this neighborhood and treasure its unique character, greenery, and proximity to the beach. Woodland Street, which provides public parking and access to the public beach, is utilized by thousands of residents and visitors every year. The establishment of this commercial rehabilitation district helps only one property owner, while incentivizing and encouraging future development that will destroy the neighborhood the rest of us love and have invested our lives and futures in. The tax breaks created by the district help only those who build commercial or multifamily developments, entirely inconsistent with our neighborhood. Nothing prevents the bakery's owners from rehabbing their property now, right now. Why do developers need tax breaks to build on such desirable property? It's also ironic that the people who would dismantle our neighborhood with their developments are the very ones who will be giving tax breaks to do so. We understand the city may include a statement designed to alleviate our concerns, and we thank you, to the effect that creating the district does not alter or signify any intent to alter the RM1 residential multifamily zoning of the parcels within the district, end quote. This does not change the fact that a commercial rehabilitation district is inappropriate and a threat to our residential neighborhood. In case we sound suspicious, here's some history to consider. We do have one property in our neighborhood that was approved for construction by masquerading as a single-family
You have
home
1 minute.
before we were zoned multifamily.
You have 1 minute, sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
It is actually a massive rental property house that is advertised on the internet, a sleeping 32. You can bring that up, you show everybody. That's a single-family home with zoning and all the rules and regulations we went through. We talked to everybody, but this was going to be a single-family home. There's 32 people across the street from us. The front is next door to the bakery. The back is next door to my house. Over 200 feet, single family. All of the assurances we were given by city authorities when the party house was built turned out to be meaningless. So putting our neighborhood in the commercial rehabilitation district will encourage developers who are looking for tax breaks to buy up parcels to convert at large single-family, multifamily structures like the one we already have, further changing the character of our neighborhood. Because of our experience with the party house, we are not reassured that
That's time,
multifamily
sir.
zoning will protect our neighborhood.
Your 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think it was Edmund Burke who said, students of histories are not doomed to repeat it. That's why we're here.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
Good evening. Thank you for having me this evening. My name is Jim Wetlaufer. My family and I have lived here in South Haven for over 30-plus years at 3 Oak Court. We live amongst residents who have lived here for decades. We are concerned about the proposed commercial rehabilitation district being imposed on us. Our neighborhood has a stable mix of single-family homes and condominiums. Our block does not need a rehabilitation or restored district. The proposal only helps one property owner. This could encourage future development that will destroy the uniqueness of our neighborhood. Tax breaks would be applied to this development, only helps the proposed property owner. We will continue to have to pay our full share of taxes, and our taxes will continue to rise. The city should not be able to make such a decision for our residential neighborhood. Making these changes like this will create another problem, like we have at 95 North Shore Drive, the picture that was just presented. This project was approved by the city to be a single-family residence. We were told it was only for the owner's immediate family. That is on, it has been recorded at the meeting that we attended. We were told that it was for the immediate family. Mysteriously, overnight, it turned into a house hotel. We have to deal with large amounts of people daily and weekly basis. They are excessively loud and rude and obnoxious. They split the house into 2 sections. Each section can have up to 16 people per unit. A total of 32 people can reside in these 2 units. Between the 8 cottages on Oak and Willow Court, there are a total of 17 to 20 people at any given time, opposed to the North Shore Drive House Hotel. This type of proposal would create a high-volume rental property and discourages individuals to move to our city full-time. Under no circumstances should this proposed district be forced into our neighborhood by the city council or by one property owner. We are more than a vacation destination. We are a community.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else?
I'm Sue Fritz. I'm 433 Cherry Street. I'm South Beach. I wasn't prepared to speak on this tonight, but I'm absolutely not in favor of this. You all have made a hot mess of North Beach, and there's no parking, and there's our community that suffered. And you need to consider just staying status quo. Thank you.
Thank you. If we could hold the applause, baby. We will speed us up.
We're entitled to applause. It's freedom of speech.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jerry Molitor. I own property at 80 Woodman, number 11. That's the Water's Edge Condominium Association. I can speak both personally and also for the association itself. I am the president of the association. I won't go through all of the legal stuff again. Obviously, we have differences of opinion on some of it. But I would specifically like to emphasize that while everyone loves Bundy's Bakery, it is a non-conforming use. Just as Three Pelicans was a non-conforming use, just as North Beach Inn was a non-conforming use. Your own zoning documents indicate that the goals are to eliminate non-conforming uses. Our opinion is that Bundy's can stay as long as they want, but when they start changing the purpose of their non-conforming use, they lose the benefit and the privilege to have that use as a non-conforming item. And I beg you to consider what happens in 5, 10, 20 years from now when Bundy's decide not to be a bakery anymore and we have this still non-conforming commercial property in a residential zone. What are we going to do with that building? You will approve some other use that is different than the bakery. I just can't imagine why you would want to perpetuate this non-conforming use of the property. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kathy Zeiderveen, and I am resident of 80 Woodman Street, number 8. Since 1973, my family has owned property in this area under consideration in various forms. We've enjoyed Bundy's in its various forms over the years and are happy to see it thriving. We wait in line like a lot of other people do. My 10-year-old grandson will run up and get in line while we all straggle up for our coffee and our donuts. But the area is already heavily populated, and oftentimes visitors to the bakery and the beach find it acceptable to leave lots of waste behind and overfill trash receptacles that are really for our use, that we pay for. While I'm not an attorney, I read the act on michigan.gov, and it leaves me with more questions than answers. We talked about the fact that the act or the request needs to be initiated by greater than 50%. We've heard that it was actually the council that requested the staff to do that, but it did come about because one property owner asked for it. I understand that it's supposed to be 3 acres in size. We've talked about that tonight. And the act goes on to list a lot of ifs, thens, and it was difficult to follow, but I hear what's being said tonight. I don't believe, and my family doesn't believe, that the addition of residential units can be absorbed by an already densely populated area. There would be an issue with parking and trash, which already are problems. And most importantly, as we've said tonight, I believe this law was designed to promote rehab in areas burdened with blight, not to improve an already thriving neighborhood and provide tax exemptions for a limited few. For these reasons, I respectfully request this action be denied. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Good evening. My name's Philip Rome. I live at 95 Willow Court, immediately adjacent to Jim and Rachel's Bakery on the south side. I went and spoke to Jim and Rachel about what they're planning to do. Their property, their building needs some repair. I look at it every day. The roof is in bad shape. One side's not painted. It needs some upkeep. They do a thriving business. They're great people. They actually have one of the few historical businesses that we have in our community. And I think it makes us a good neighborhood. People come into our neighborhood. I hear them talking. I hear them talking about our beautiful plants in front of our home. I can't see how, actually I'm opposed to what you're looking at doing to create a commercial rehab area in our residential facility for the benefit of one person. Our new home, I wish I could have gotten a tax break, as they're wanting a tax break to build 2 more stories of residential property on top of the bakery. I don't get one, and I'm retired. My money comes out of my pocket to pay the city taxes, and it's not cheap where we live. I'm just really opposed to what you're looking at doing, and I really encourage you to not pass this. I can't see that it helps anyone, but unfortunately this one party. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Come on.
Good evening. I'm John Bussema. I live at 3 Willow Court, Unit 14 of Water's Edge Condominiums. I oppose the action that is before you. My wife and I have lived on Willow Court for 30 years plus, and I do not see how you can, in good conscience, pass this on 90% of the people who do not want it. We are opposed to it. You've heard all the arguments. I stand behind all the arguments. It's a crowded area. Parking is bad. The street's busy. You put a sign up in the middle of the street for a crosswalk, made the driving lanes narrower. It's hard to get in and out of the streets because you allow parking up close to the driveways. I am totally opposed, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. I just implore you to listen to your citizens and your constituents and take their concerns into hand. We see over and over that not only the city council, but the planning commission ignore residents' concerns about continued development. It happened at Trailside, where open space was allowed to be developed on. Protect our communities. That's what you're here for. And with regard to density, I tried to get a crosswalk on my end of town. I told it wasn't dense enough. But not only do they have a crosswalk in front of Bundy's, there was a sign. It was stolen twice. They had to replace it twice because of the density. It's not safe to increase density in an area that's already dense and prone to accidents. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else? Anybody else?
evening. My name is Kim Rome, and I live at 95 Willow Court. Our home is directly adjacent to Bundy's Bakery and Cafe. We were shocked, horrified, and totally appalled when reading the letter that was sent to us via certified mail telling us that we were included in the creation of a commercial rehab district. We didn't ask for this. We do not know how we got involved in this without our knowledge, short of a certified letter. We're responsible, full-time residents of South Haven. We've been here since 1997. We pay our taxes. We follow the rules. We even shovel our sidewalks in the winter. We completed construction on our new, beautiful retirement dream home 4 years ago, and our property shares a line with 89 North Shore Drive. There's no parking nor any green space in existence at the bakery. We have been subjected to constant trespassing and misuse of our property, including trash left on our lawn, bicycles parked on our lawn, dogs being brought over to our lawn, and especially our flowers, to relieve themselves by bakery customers. We are not in favor of expanding, rehabbing the business, which will result in an increase in these issues for us. When we built our home, we had to follow all the zoning rules in place, including the setbacks and the percentage of green space that was required for our home's footprint. The bakery has no green space and clearly is far from 8 or 10 or 12 feet from the road. How can residential area be constructed and a clear nonconformance of setbacks occur? How can residential construction occur when it's commercial? And we understand that a component of the CRB is a tax abatement for 10 years. We would have loved to have been able to build our home and not have to pay taxes for 10 years also. Why do any of us in the outlying district have to pay taxes if they don't? How is it that you can even consider the request of one single property owner and consequently impact 21 others based on that one? Will my request and the other 20 requests to not approve the creation of this district be heard? Shouldn't all requests be considered equally? If not, then why not? Please do not approve the creation of a commercial rehab district of 3 acres on North Shore Drive. Thank you.
Thanks. Any comments?
The good news is that this is short and sweet. I submitted a letter that you've gotten. My name is Helen Thosen, and I am at number 5 Oak Court, and I have been here 50 years, which is, it's my second home. I belong to St. Basil's. And this action just has upset everybody. And I would say if you went to every home and every condo on Willow Court and Oak Court and Water's Edge, you would not get one person in favor of it. We love the bakery, but this is not an area that needs to be developed. The parking and the density are huge issues. We just don't need it. I beg you not to approve this. Amen.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm Kevin Crooks. My wife and I own a property at 4 Willow Court, which is in the district that is being proposed to be commercial. We submitted a letter stating our objections, so I don't want to go over that. But what appalled me when I saw this map come up earlier, I hadn't seen that before, is just kind of the giant nature of what already constitutes a commercial district. And I'm wondering where it ends, honestly, when I see a map like that. When I looked at the map and then I saw our little area circled in it, it struck me that the entire area is eventually going to be a commercial rehabilitation district. The area that's drawn next to us is a public beach with a public park that is constantly busy and constantly full. And I think when you draw an area like that inside a map, when you draw our area inside that map, you're inviting someone to come in and say, let's buy that from the city. Wouldn't it be nice if the city would sell me that and I could put up a huge condo and get rid of one more public beach, one more public parking lot, one more point of public access, which is part of what makes this city great, frankly. So we object to that, and we ask you to consider our objections and vote against it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Good evening. I'm Todd Kephart. I own Unit 3 with my wife Margaret in the Water's Edge condominium. It's all been said, so I'm not going to rehash it all, except my big point is what happens down the line. So this is kind of the first commercial domino to go. and there's another rule change, and before you know it, we've got something that really changes the character of the neighborhood. So I just want to go on record saying I, too, oppose with my wife the proposal in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. I'm the daughter of Kim and Jim Wetlaufer, and we live on 3 Oak Court. I just got my license, and it takes me 10 minutes to get out of the driveway due to the Bundy's Bakery. Imagine if condos are rebuilt, and it'll take 20, 15, 35 minutes. And I got things to do. I'm a teenager. I just got my license. I want to go out, hang out with my friends. I don't have time to wait for people to come, go, stand in the middle of our driveway. And we've had 3 people hit our house due to our bakery, the bakery customers at the end of our street. 3 people have hit our house. And we have, I don't know if you know this or not, but we have a no trespassing sign in the middle of our driveway because so many people come down our street due to Bundy's Bakery. So I strongly oppose you to not vote this new thing through. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for speaking. And good job. Way to speak. Anybody else? There you go.
My name is Jim Sankowski, Bundy's Bakery with my wife Rachel. My family came here for over 100 and some years ago from Chicago, left their jobs in the steel mill, maids, and gardeners out of Chicago to come here to become entrepreneurs and start a life for their family in South Haven and make it better for everybody concerned. Well, just so I'm fortunate enough that my family were entrepreneurs. It was bred into us, and in this town alone right now, there's numerous businesses run by my family. I can drive down back to my work from my country, my farm, and see where Barden's, my family owned Barden's. When they released it to Texaco in '73, I helped my dad build Barden's, the building there, for Texaco. And we leased it to Texaco for decades. And then we sold it to my cousin, who ran Classy Chassis there. My dad, when he got out of the war, he owned the building and sold Massey Ferguson tractors at Countryside Motors. He did that for years. Where your store is, my parents for 30 years had the official style shop and at Soha for 30 years there. We bought 2.5 acres on Dykeman Avenue in North Shore Drive, and there was a restaurant and a bar there that was dilapidated. Can't even tell you what was going on in there at the time. We gutted it and turned it into a profitable business for 10 years in the 80s, Cheers and Gaslight. And then when my dad got Alzheimer's, we ended up we tried to put hotels in there, in rental units, and we were shot down twice. So we sold it to the people that developed the Cannery Row. I mean, I got cousins in this town that sell fire engines to the town. I've got cousins in this town that build a splash park and repair the sewage, the frozen water lines. I've got cousins in this town, or my nephew in this town has a business who supplies Tesla and Ryobi and Chrysler. I got an engineering brother-in-law who takes care of Yoplait and Tesla. And so I come from an entrepreneur background. And so in 2018, when the city changed and put that commercial district to the middle of North Shore Drive and didn't include us, Rachel and I came to the city and said, hey, what can you do for us? So that's how we got here. We didn't realize it was going to take the whole neighborhood in on our plan. We thought it would just be 89 North Shore Drive. We wanted to be treated like everybody else in this city, whether it was the Baptist Church that got the inducements, Hales, or the Rocket Road that got money from the city to improve, or people in the industrial park. We said, hey, we're sitting here in one of the last neighborhood businesses. I don't care if it's zoned correctly or not, or non-conforming use. That doesn't matter to me. I love baking. I bake with a passion. Every ounce of dough I make, it has every sweat and love that I can put into it. And the same for the things my wife does down there. And I don't care. If I was these people that owned the property around me, I'd say, hey, I don't want this. And I agree with them. I didn't ask for it personally. I asked to be treated like any other business in town. So, I've still come to the city and say, what can you do for us to treat us on an equal level as the other businesses? Give us the incentives you've given the other businesses. Bundy at one time in the 80s went to the city and they gave him permission to go up, build a residence above the bakery. 1 minute? Okay. And I tell you what, as far as trash and as far as 8-9 months out of the year, there's nobody over on the north side. And you're welcome to come in anymore, and you're welcome not to come in. My friend David's been hassled by his neighbors, accused of selling his place to me. He isn't selling his place to me. Never even thought about it, and I never would even ask him because he loves his property. That's all I have to say, and the city can do what they want.
Thank you.
I'll still come back and build the second story.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. How about we close the public hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion second to close the public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing's closed. All right. Next item. Anybody want to consider the approval of Resolution 2021-19 to establish the North Shore Commercial Rehab District? All right. I think that answers that question. All right. We'll move on. Set to go?
Yeah.
Set to go?
Would it be better to make a motion and then not approve it, or to?
By not making a motion, the question's been answered. There's no interest in taking this up. So
Okay.
I think that answers the question. This time, there's no interest in taking this topic up, so.
So I'm confused. Are we voting for or against now, or what are we actually?
Joe, can you use your microphone so people at home can hear you?
Microphone.
What are we actually doing? Voting
Because-
now for it or against it?
Because no one made a
shelving
resolution,
it?
we move on.
We move on.
No one made a motion.
It dies due to lack of motion.
So we don't even need to discuss it anymore.
Nope. We move on. Very good. Very good. You've been heard, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody. Next item. I'll let you folks clear out real quick.
Nothing. That's what we did.
That's what I thought, so.
All right, very good. That takes us to new business. City Council will be asked to consider the introduction of the proposed text amendments to Section 201, 1403, and 1714 of the zoning ordinance and set a public hearing on the items to occur at the September 7th, 2021 regular meeting.
We need a motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just move to introduce.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to introduce the proposed text amendments to Section 201, 1403, 1714 of the zoning ordinance.
I'll second.
Very good, thank you. All right, we got a motion, we got a second. Kate?
Yes, this is an introduction of some proposed text amendments that Travis has been working on with the Planning Commission. Additionally, I think that we have missed we have a correction we want to talk about. Nick or Travis, we want to talk about something that we want to put on. If you want to go ahead and talk about what the text amendments are, as well as a proposed correction.
Yes, so this is a continuation of the Planning Commission's work that they've been undergoing this year to address the sensitive environments portion of the master plan, the set of goals and objectives that that portion of the plan seeks to address. The two items that the Planning Commission has been working on for the past few months are objectives 7 and 8 under that category, which are fire pits and outdoor barbecues, and the addition of the city arborist to the site plan review process. As far as objective 7 goes, what the Planning Commission has attempted to do with these text amendments is to define outdoor fire pits, outdoor fireplaces, and outdoor barbecues, both permanent and non-permanent, and then additionally take action to regulate permanent outdoor fire pits, fireplaces, and barbecues, specifically their location on a property relative to the lot lines and relative to structures on and adjacent to the property. What you see tonight is missing a portion of what the Planning Commission asked for at the previous meeting where they held their public hearing, which was to remove the word fixed under section 201.12. The word fixed is mentioned 3 times in that section. And what the Planning Commission intended was for that simply to state permanent, not permanently fixed. So permanent outdoor barbecues, permanent outdoor fireplaces, and permanent outdoor fire pits. So that will be corrected for your public hearing at the next meeting. Wanted to bring that item to the Planning Commission's attention. And the city attorney was looking at a couple of other legal items today, and I'll turn it over to Nick to discuss those.
Yes, so the city received some correspondence on this item with legal related suggestions, and I did have an opportunity to look through that. One of them stuck out to me as something that would be a recommended change, and I think it's clearly what the Planning Commission intended, so it's something that, unless there's objection from the council, we would intend as staff to add into a next draft to come to council for the second reading. And that relates to basically a discrepancy between, let's see, it's in section 1714. There are setbacks provided in a new subsection 2, 25-foot setbacks for these structures, permanent outdoor fire pits, fireplaces, and outdoor barbecues. But then in subsection 6, it says that all landscaping structures, which now will include those 3 items, have a 3-foot setback. So just to reconcile that discrepancy in the text and make sure no one's confused, we would suggest adding to the first sentence in subsection 6, or as otherwise provided in subsection 2, just making clear that subsection 2 trumps subsection 6 with respect to these 3 new types of structures that are being defined. And because that's so clearly what the Planning Commission intended, we don't think that change would need to go back to the Planning Commission for comment. That could just be kind of added, if council is okay with that suggestion, could be incorporated into a new draft for your second reading.
With regard to objective 8, regarding adding the city arborist to the site plan review process, what this amendment would do would be to amend section 1403, which defines the standards of the site plan review process to include the inclusion of trees with a trunk diameter of 6 feet or more, or I'm sorry, 6 inches or more, to the site plan submittal. So the applicant would have to identify the location of those trees which they plan to remove as a part of the process. The city arborist then would be able to review that proposal, and that report would be included to the Planning Commission as a part of that process.
Very good. Any other questions?
What is the definition of permanent? And I know this is just an introduction, but
yeah, no, it's good.
Just want to get a start on it. Instead of permanently fixed.
So that suggestion was brought up by a citizen in comments just for the purpose of referring back to the defined terms, the way that this ordinance was written. the terms permanent outdoor barbecue, permanent outdoor fire pit, and permanent outdoor fireplace are all put in the definition section. And the comment was just that using a different term to describe the same thing is confusing, and if people are doing Control F, they won't be able to find it by doing that term. In terms of what the definition of permanent is, I'm not sure that we have a zoning definition for permanent, but we now do have zoning definitions for permanent outdoor barbecue, permanent outdoor fire pit, and permanent outdoor fireplace. And let's see.
And that's included in this text
These
amendment.
are included in the packet. They're highlighted, and I believe they all refer to permanent construction, meaning affixed to the foundation as opposed to being able to be
So it
easily
becomes a
moved.
fixture of the house then?
Correct.
Thank you.
Or not necessarily of the house,
Around,
but
yeah.
on the property. It could be on the patio or something of that nature.
Thank you.
And just to add to what Nick said, the intent of the planning commission as they looked at these was to regulate, as we said, permanent structures essentially that aren't intended to be moved around the property, as opposed to a grill or some sort of an item that you would have possibly on wheels that could be moved from place to place on the property.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Glad we're having the arborist added in there. That's a nice addition. All right, we have a motion, we have a second for the introduction. All those in, oh, sorry, public. Sorry, any public questions before I roll on? Nothing. We have oh, come on up, sorry. Whew. Almost forgot you.
Oh, I wouldn't let you have it.
I know.
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. Thank you for taking consideration of my comments. I'm the citizen that was referenced. Not all of my comments have been addressed. I have I have expressed on more than one occasion that permanent and outdoor are not consistently used throughout the ordinance, and that because outdoor fire pits are identified as both permanent and non-permanent, without that definition or qualification consistently used, I think there's opportunities for people to challenge any violations, and I think it just makes for a poor draftsmanship. And with regard to draftsmanship, I had, and this was actually a suggestion from somebody else, and I agreed with her, I brought it forward, that Section 2 inserted into 1714 is inserted in the middle versus at the end, and it's inserted among discussions where they are definitely non-permanent structures, like fences, whereas these are permanent structures, and so I think it just reads disjointedly. I would not support the order in which they appear. I think that would also help with the distinguishing between permanent and the non-permanent fixtures of landscaping. And I also had raised, and I would like to make sure that everybody did receive my email from yesterday with highlights, underline, et cetera. But also with outdoor fire pits having to be constructed by the owner, I find that the qualification of it being constructed by the property owner would add unnecessary burden to the city for a violation, and I do not see any value in that being in just the outdoor fire pit and not in the other items being added. And I just incorporate my other comments that I had made via email to save you time. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Thanks for the comments. Anybody else? Nobody else? All right, we have a motion, we have a second to make that introduction. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no? It is introduced. Very good. Let's roll on. Let's go. Sorry. Next, City Council will be asked to consider a series of actions regarding residential solid waste and recycling services in the city of South Haven. First, consider the approval of a 5-year contract with Best Way Disposal starting in December 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the 5-year contract with Best Way Disposal.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion. We have a second for that. Kate?
Yes, sir. So we have had a contract with Republic which reliable now, for some time now. And as we were coming up with the end of the contract, Griffin was tasked with securing an RFP, which this council approved, and went out for bid, and then secured a number of proposals that we formulated a committee to evaluate those proposals, and we have come up with a suggestion here, a possible contract with Bestway. And I'll have Griffin go ahead and go into what we have come up with and see if the council has any questions. So Griffin, if you'd like to go into the details.
Sure, thank you. Again, appreciate the opportunity. As Kate mentioned, staff prepared an RFP after significant research, since it's been about 15 years since the city had gone out for bid in this industry. And on May 3rd, staff issued the RFP. Upon the deadline, 2 proposals were accepted, one by Republic Services, who is the existing service provider, and a second one by Bestway Disposal. An internal committee comprised of the assistant city manager, finance director, public works director, and a local resident with significant industry-specific knowledge evaluated the proposals, conducted interviews with both proposing vendors, and unanimously identified Bestway as offering the best value to the community. Bestway Disposal is a local vendor who provides disposal services and customer support for our area out of Watervliet, Michigan. They also have offices in Kalamazoo and other areas in the Midwest. They provide services to other cities comparable to the city of South Haven, such as the city of St. Joe, Michigan. They've had a relationship with them for many, many years. And they already provide service to many local commercial businesses in South Haven, so they have a history of knowing the area. We do have Miss Brandy Van Horn here this evening with members of her team. If there are questions for Bestway, I do want to thank them for being here today and sitting through a long meeting so far to this point. We've had a really good working relationship once identifying them through their proposal and then working with the city attorney to negotiate a contract. Largely, the services available to residents per the agreement before you all today will remain the same. However, as noted in your packet, there are some changes that are important to highlight. One, and probably the most impactful for residents on a weekly basis, is the proposed contract was transitioned from all garbage pickup and recycling pickup and yard waste pickup occurring on 1 day a week on a Monday. The proposed contract would transition that to 3-day pickup, splitting the area, the city as a whole, into 3 different pickup regions. This would allow Bestway to be in the city more often, provide a higher level of customer service, as well as not overwhelm their service providing abilities. But a few other notes is carts will be available for individuals for yard waste, and there will be a uniform cost for residents who are interested in purchasing additional carts. One of the things we learned going throughout this process is the city pays for a single-family residential home to have 1 garbage cart, but there are many in the area, particularly in the summer, who may produce more garbage than that, so they pay for additional carts. But because that's not a set rate by the city that they negotiated with our current service provider, these individuals can pay a drastic ranging in pricing. So that'll be a good new service. That's a possible addition, assuming City Council is satisfied with the agreement. And the last one I'll note this evening is bulk item pickup. Bulk item pickup will still be a service offered to residents. However, they will need to schedule it ahead of time so that the service provider knows where these individuals are and what's out there, and that will help them be more efficient and provide a higher level of customer service when it comes to providing these services. But lastly, before turning it over or being willing to answer any questions, if we are to move forward with this contract this evening, this is not the end of this process. If anything, it is very much the beginning. Bestway's team and city staff would work very closely over the next 60 to 90 days to communicate with residents, including introduction letters, creating South Haven-specific web pages, and other communication methods to make sure that individuals are aware that there are some changes coming. Like any organization with the history like Best Way, they've gone through transitions like this before. Staff is confident that we will be able to promote a smooth transition and hopefully provide high-quality service moving forward.
Sounds good. Any questions for me?
So then we'll all need new carts, new trash cans. Will it still be the same recycling? With a separate bin for our recycling? and
Correct.
Put it all in and.
Correct. There will be separate
That'll be the
bins for your
same.
garbage and your recycling, and new bins will be provided. That's part of the reason this is being brought to you all now, is Best Way needs a certain amount of transition time to get those carts ordered. At the beginning of the contract, those carts would get dropped off, and Republic would take their carts away. The specific logistics of that are items we'll work out during the transition period in the upcoming, but that's a great transition to the other item, which is a short extension with Republic Services to allow for a smooth transition and to not interrupt our current monthly billing cycles. Assuming City Council wants to move forward with the recommended contract with Best Way, we would also recommend that City Council consider extending the current contract with Republic Services through the end of November, so the transition can occur at the end of a month instead of at the middle of a month.
Makes sense. Joe, do you have a question?
Yeah, my first big question, I've had some experience with Best Way, and they are not the best in my experience. So here's my first question, is when you say it's a best value, is it more expensive or less than Republic right now? Starting, will they be lower or higher than what we have right now?
It will be higher than what we have right
That's
now.
what I thought. Secondly, will they be locked in for those 5 years? Because here's the experience I have found with them. They constantly increase their prices, constantly, with no notice. Now, that's an individual home. That's a residential. But I worry about the city running into the same problems because they constantly increase their prices. So I think we need to have some protection, a contract for 5 years that says, here's how much we're going to pay now, here's how much we're going to pay next year and next year, so we can compare apples with apples, so we're not surprised.
Councilmember, there are the rates that are pre-established in this contract, so we already know what increases will look like every year throughout the contract.
So have we compared that to the same period, that Republic?
Yes,
And they're higher there, you're telling me?
they are.
So I know a lot of residents aren't happy with Republic. Is that why we're changing? Why would we want to pay more for trash pickup, I guess, is my first obvious question, if we're paying more?
Because it's not getting picked up.
Yeah,
I
agree. It's
So the
service.
service is so bad
It's
that
service.
we're willing to, okay, fair enough.
And if it helps City Council, both proposals we received were for higher rates than we are currently paying. The city hasn't gone through this process in 15 years, so bluntly, rates were going to go up.
We're seeing a very different waste and recycling world, not just 5 years ago, but 15 years ago as well. I mean, we're seeing a lot of differences, but when you don't have when you have a contract that has not been revisited in its rates for 15 years, you're going to see a significant jump. But I got to tell you, the challenges that we've been having with Reliable have been going on for 2 years. We've been documenting this prior to me sitting in this chair. And as we've been going through this process, which has been going on since May, service has not been improving, which that's a really good time to start saying, hey, we're really going to buckle down, and we're really going to show you that we've got this, that we've got the best customer service. That has not manifested. So here, in our eyes, we're trying to do the best for the city, which is trying to get the best customer service that we can.
And what really stood out to the selection, or the evaluation committee, was that Best Way disposal being based, their customer service and pickup operations being based out of Waterville, They know the area. They know the roads. When we're communicating with the existing vendor right now, it doesn't mean anything to them. Where communicating with an organization like Bestway that is relatively local, we did, as the evaluation committee, find additional value in that.
Yes, Steve?
As with any contract I look at, I also look at, if I'm not happy with something, how do I get out of it? And in number 6 of the contract, it says early termination may be terminated prior to the expiration of its term only as allowed by section 7.12 of the proposal. I can't find a section 7.12 of the proposal. Can you help me out with that?
That is page 115 of the packet. So page 13 of the part of the proposal that has the city logo at the top.
Well, I'm looking at the whole contract where the mayor and everybody else would sign this when it's done.
Correct.
And there's
So
7.
That's a good question. So the contract itself is relatively short because it incorporates the RFP and the proposal by reference, which those are the more detailed aspects of the services to be provided. So in the RFP itself, city staff determined what would be causes for potential termination, and any contractor that the city was going to move forward with was going to have to agree to those. So if you will look at 7.12 termination, there are 2 options for termination. One is for fault, which gives the city manager the ability to say the services that you agreed to are not being provided, therefore, with a certain notice period, we're going to end this relationship. There is also a not-for-fault option, which gives the city manager significant leeway to determine that termination for a not fault-related issue is in the best interest of the city.
I don't understand why that isn't part of the contract, though.
It is.
Just kind of in a weird way, huh?
Right. The exhibit following, it's a significant number of pages following the signature line would be incorporated as an exhibit and has a number of terms that are contractual terms. So it specifies the holidays that the contractor would be taking. It specifies quite a number of
So it
things.
just references the proposal, and that's where it goes.
Correct, right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just reiterate, we've had numerous complaints and concerns for years. And I mean, I've noticed it just since they abandoned their location here in town. It's kind of continued to drop off. And just so the public's aware, if you drive by that site, and the city is acutely aware of the condition of that site, we've been in contact with Reliable Republic to let them know, and working to maybe see if we can acquire the property. We'll see, but
Or encourage their redevelopment.
or encourage that, yeah, encourage somebody to purchase that and redevelopment. But yeah, so we are aware of that property's condition as well. So I will be voting in favor of the contract when we get there. So any public questions or comments at this time? Oh, sorry, Joy, another one? Sorry, hold on one
I
second.
think I got this, but I just want to make sure. So currently, if I put out one trash can, which is typical of most residents, but the resident next to me or down the street who's a short-term rental, and they put out 3 or 4 trash cans, they're paying the same as, they're being covered by the city to have all, right now, they get 3 or 4 picked up, they don't? They pay
No,
more?
they would pay an additional cost
No,
for
I'm
that.
saying right now.
Correct. They would currently pay an additional cost for that. It's not a uniform additional cost right now. So, for example, if I live in the middle of a block and my neighbor to my left has an additional cart being picked up and my neighbor to the right has an additional cart being picked up, the city has no way to ensure that those 2 residents for their additional carts are being charged the same rate. Where the contract that's before you all, there's a set cost for an additional cart. So it doesn't matter if you live on Broadway or Pearl Street or Bailey. If you would like an additional cart and you would like to pay for additional service, the city's contract with the provider will help ensure that you get a consistent cost.
So, one more time. Right now, not the new proposal. Right now, if someone puts out, if they have two trash cans, 2 carts, and someone else has 1, the city is paying for trash pickup. So that person with 2, are they paying more right now?
The city currently pays for 1 cart to be picked up. If you're putting more out than that, the current vendor, Republic right now,
Right.
should be charging them.
Should be.
Yes.
Okay.
Public comments, come on up.
David Veenstra, 1220 Monroe Boulevard. I do have a question on the yard pickup. Will there be a bin provided by Republic that's picked up by their trucks, like a standard size bin? Yes, my best way. Great. And then it will still be 1 pickup per week for the recycling and the yard waste, and once every 2 weeks for the recycling?
Yep.
Okay. And there won't be any local drop-off for like recycling or yard waste, will there? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, David.
And they're not going to start before 7 a.m.?
That's correct, that's in the ordinance.
Okay.
I'm Sue Fritz, 433 Cherry Street. I'm only here about 3 months out of the year, but I have had more than my share of problems with Republic and Reliable. So I would be very much in favor of switching, even if it costs more. But I'd like the council to consider those of us that aren't here for 6 months out of the year, a proportionate use basis. I mean, there's a lot of residents that aren't here half of the year, and we're still paying the full amount, and it doesn't make for affordable utilities and housing for us.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. First, I'd like to thank Griffin for meeting earlier today and confirming some things. I was glad to hear that the recycling is for commingles and not just paper. I noticed that the agenda packet had just cardboard and paper listed, but I've been assured that it's commingled, so that's good, so that doesn't change. I understand that it's anticipated that there won't be an increase in the mill tax levy assessed, that it should be able to fall under what is currently charged. If that changes, it would be nice to know that as soon as possible. With regard to the rates, just for a clarification, maybe you could identify how close the 2 competitors were, because it sounds like the original question was for the current rate, and you said both came in at higher rates. So comparing the 2 who came in with higher rates, how close they were, that might address the council person's concern more. With regard to differences, I noticed in looking through the agenda packet that mattresses are supposed to be in a cover, so that might be something you want to definitely address in your communication, because on the way here, I saw 2 mattresses out on the curb with no cover. So people are used to not having to cover anything, and if this proceeds, that will definitely be something that would be different, and the citizens would need to know about that. With regard to something similar with regard to the seasonal aspect, so if someone wanted to rent an extra bin, but only for a short period of time, would the monthly rent change just because it's a short-term use, and would there be a drop-off pickup fee because you wouldn't be getting the full benefit of a year's worth of rental on the bin? You would only be a short term, and presumably someone who would want it just a few months would want it a few months every year, so there would be a lot more drop-off pickup. So that would be something that would be good to clarify. And I think that covers everything. And yes, I did note that the agenda packet did have the rates for all 5 years, and I think in anticipation of extending it. So that was nice to see that the rates were defined. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Oh, one more.
I'm just going to briefly comment that I'm familiar with Bestway's landfill. It is right out by my church in Watervliet. I drive by it several times a week. They are excellent about picking up any trash that's blown out of the landfill. I pass guys all the time. It's always kept, the property is almost always neat. After a huge windstorm, I've been by there and it's disastrous, and I know you can't do anything about it. And I want to share with you one of the most hilarious things I've seen out there. There are very tall posts with the fence. And one day I went and there were 20 turkey vultures on every one of those posts, just waiting for some tasty morsel. But my experience with Bestway is that they do take care of their property, so I would hope that they will also take care of ours.
Thank you. All right.
Get her name and address for the record.
Oh, sorry. We'll get there. We'll get there. Would the folks from Bestway like to say anything before we vote on this? You don't have to. We've. Oh, come on up. Sorry.
At the microphone, yeah.
Jump up.
Sorry. Obviously, we look forward to building a relationship and making your guys' service better. So,
Sounds
thank
good.
you.
Very good.
Thanks for your
Thank you. Thanks for hanging out for 2 hours. Okay, any other questions?
Just one last little confirmation, maybe by the attorney, and that's that the whole contract references the proposal. But the proposal in my packet says request for proposal. Is that just play on words, or can I be confident that when it references proposal, it's really referencing the request for proposal that's in my packet?
It's referencing everything that follows is the exhibit. That includes both the request for proposals and the price sheet that they attached when they resubmitted it to the city. So all documents that follow until the next item are going to be attached to the contract.
If it's helpful, they submitted the request for proposals as part of their entire proposal packet. So that's why it starts with their introduction letter, moves on to their bid sheets, has the rest of the proposal in there with then some notes towards the end. So that's the reason it looks like that. Can definitely see where that is a little confusing. But we made sure to work and really not reinvent the wheel by trying to incorporate all of the language that staff prepared in the RFP, because those were the items that we wanted to make sure were included in this eventual contract.
Right. So it'll go to page 130 of the packet, and that will be stapled at the time of signing, and the clerk will keep that entire packet together.
Okay.
Sounds good. Anybody else? Go. We have a motion. We have a second to approve a 5-year contract with Bestway Disposal starting in December 21. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It's approved. Next, council will be asked to consider an addendum to the existing contract with Republic Services to continue services through the end of November 2021.
I'll make a motion to create an extension to the contract to Republic to last through the end of November 2021.
An
Second.
addendum.
Yeah, I left that word out.
Addendum, yeah.
We need
Addendum, yep.
addendum.
Yep.
Make a motion for an addendum.
And we got a second. All right, we have a motion and a second. I think we've already heard why we have to continue on. That goes to the proposal with Bestway. Ba-doom. Council questions, public questions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is approved. Next, we'll be receiving an update from our Chief of Police, Miss Natalie Thompson. Good evening, Chief. Thanks for staying with us for this evening.
Here, I thought everyone was here to listen to me, but.
They're home tuning in, I'm sure.
Thank you. So at any rate, he's on, just to give you an update on our police officer positions hiring process. Our posting ended on August 9th. We received a little over 20 applicants. Unfortunately, some of them didn't have the basic requirements. So 15 of the applicants will be taking a written exam. I give 2 test dates, so it'll be this Thursday and Friday to kind of accommodate different schedules. With this test, a mandatory score of 70% is required for further consideration in our selection process. I utilize the National Police Officer Selection Test through Standard and Associates that measures reading comprehension, math, and writing and grammar competencies. Those passing this exam will proceed to an initial interview that we conduct prior to the full-blown background investigation process. So we're hoping by the last week in August to have the initial interviews, and then in September, it usually, I mean, if, you know, depending on how many applicants, it can take a month or two to complete all the background. So the good news is we did get some very qualified applicants. The officers, we've really been trying to recruit from other departments, and I think we've got some really, really good candidates that have experience that would like to come to South Haven. So we're very fortunate in light of, you know, what's going on with staffing. So the Blueberry Festival Friday started. Many of us were at the Bobby Walker basketball tournament. Very nice event. He does a great job organizing it. That was busy as normal. We didn't have any significant events that happened there that we were called to. We kept a presence. Overall, it was pretty positive. Unfortunately, on Saturday, and I had updated the city manager, our whole shift was at Bronson Hospital just to help to provide some security to the hospital staff. There was a shooting that occurred outside of South Haven, and that individual was transported to our hospital. So Saturday, if you saw a lot of people and a lot of police officers, that was just simply to provide security for Bronson. Unfortunately, there were a lot of people. We had some help from other departments, but things did stay calm. So in case you wondered what happened Saturday night, we were there for probably most of the night after 1 a.m. Just Sunday was normal, busy Blueberry Festival things, no significant events for us. So I think overall it was a pretty good weekend. And then next, I have some stats, and what I've included is only from our night shift officers. At the next meeting, I'll have our day shift, our canine officers, and also our school resource officers. So in an effort to enhance standards regarding our current performance appraisal process for police officers, and these are done once a year, I recently requested sergeants to provide numbers of mandatory reporting data currently required in the officers' daily activity reports. So the data that we've compiled, it's a fraction of what they do on a daily basis, but it's giving some insight as to where their time is being spent. And the idea eventually is to get more categories, and then so we can really tune in, and then when I give these reports, I can tell you exactly these are the 10 things we're doing, and this is the exact amount of time they're spending on them, and those will also be categories where they're evaluated more objectively as opposed to kind of subjectively is what we're doing now, so should be an improvement. Our night shift officers work 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. The 2 night squads work separate nights throughout the week. So we've got squad D and C. The night squad D has 3 officers. So these numbers are for the year from January through August. And you can see they're fairly consistent between the 2 squads. 137 complaints, 75 citations, 92 hours of foot patrol, and 38 arrests for the 1 squad. And then our squad C only has 2 officers. You can tell they're hard workers because there's 1 less, but they're keeping up with the other night squad. They had 135 complaints, 88 citations, 27 hours of foot patrol. So you can kind of see they're doing a little bit less foot patrol, but their ticket numbers are higher. So there's there's always that balance. And then they had 43 arrests. And like I said, for improvements to our current performance appraisal process, the sergeants are helping with this. And like I said, we're going to establish more specific categories that we can evaluate more objectively. And then we're also going to improve our methods of how this information is documented by the officers on their dailies. So it's kind of baby steps, but I think our end product will really provide more accurate information as to what we're doing. So that's the goal. And then we'll also be able to give, I think, more evaluations that can really have a little bit more validity on what the officers are doing well or what they might need improvement on. And then finally, I answer a lot of questions throughout the week, so it's kind of just a reminder. But after an officer has issued a citation, anyone who wishes to contest the citation, that always has to be handled through the court. So if you've already received a citation, your remedy is to go to the court and, tell them you want to contest it or request a hearing. If an individual wishes to make a complaint against an officer for conduct, we do have a policy. I have a citizen complaint form that is to be completed before we investigate it. We have these forms available 24/7 through our information center, so anyone can come in person. And we can also email the blank complaint form to an individual. Complaints about police officers are not handled by phone or email. And that's per our policy. Completion of the written complaint on the citizen complaint form is required. And that is just to lend validity to the complaint, who's making it. Because on the phone, I don't know who I'm talking to, so it lends validity to this process. And every citizen complaint that is received, depending on what the outcome is, they are all investigated. So small to more substantial. So I just wanted to clarify some of that. So if you get a ticket that you want to fight in court, but you still want to complain about the officer, you can do that. But the ticket has to be handled through court, and then you can fill out a citizen complaint form, and then we'll look into conduct matters. So that's all I
Perfect.
have.
Questions, anybody?
Just a couple things. One, I thought I was at the kickoff of the Bobby Walker basketball tournament. I thought it was very nice that a couple of your officers were recognized there. That was very, very nice.
Yes, it was, and that is, and I know that went a long way with them, with not a lot of positivity, but yeah, it was very well received.
And I had one other question. The interview that you're going to do for new officers, is that like a consistent board for everybody, or is it
No.
a lot of people, or just a couple people, or?
That's a good question. So through the years at the police department, I've been in many of these processes, whether it be for a sergeant promotion, seasonal interviews, full-time interviews. So just I learned from maybe things we could do better. So my goal, the last few panels that we have, I like to choose different officers from within the department. I'll normally have a sergeant, but I like to mix it up a little bit and maybe ask a patrol officer. I try to get different people on the interview panels, and I've also found that too many people can be really difficult either to grade. It adds more stress to the candidate. So usually 3 or 4 officers I'll have on a panel, and I on purpose don't always have the same people, so it gives everyone opportunities to have input on who we're hiring. So, and that seems to work pretty well.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. I'll just say thanks as always for doing an outstanding job, to your staff for doing all they do. Blueberry Festival was, I think, pretty good. I mean, all in all, it was well handled, so well done. So
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next, citizens in the audience will be heard on items not on the agenda. If you have anything you'd like to add, you'll could come on up. You have up to 5 minutes to speak. So just state your name and address.
Sorry. Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. I'd like to thank City Manager Hosier and Assistant City Manager Graham for answering questions I've had on the Overton development, I and others. I would like to confirm a few matters from those discussions, email correspondence, that I know the city's in negotiations with Habitat for the sale purchase of that property, and I was just curious, will the agreement include a contingency, I'm guessing, on the rezoning of the property and approval of Habitat's site plan, but I was wondering if there are other contingencies that could be discussed to let us know what would be contemplated in the negotiations. I understand it may be a negotiation, you may not be able to say that, but I believe at least rezoning and that the site plan would be contingent. I do know at the May 17th, 2021 City Council meeting, the city voted to support the repurchase of the property for over $96,000, reflecting the inflation from the purchase price in 2015. And that was the first step to start with the negotiations with Habitat. And I understand Habitat is applying for the MISHDA funding, and I believe that's due October 1st. And so I was just curious exactly what has to be done by then. I think the rezoning has to be done by then. I do not think a site plan has to be done by then. I wasn't sure if an agreement had to be done by then. If I didn't, and if you could clarify that, it'd be appreciated. I know that the requirements for MISHDA, it has to be done by the October 1st deadline. And I understand that with the MISHDA funding, that they're going for the low-income housing tax credit. And from previous discussions, I believe that subsidy gives roughly a 70% of the cost for the developer. So that's why I'm just trying to understand exactly what is being involved in this, knowing that they're going for these low-income housing tax credits based on their own presentations. And as part of the negotiation, I would ask that the city ask Habitat to share their evaluations for their property. I know that they have full divergence of property from income limited, low income to high luxury, based on all their listings of properties that they manage. And I would ask that Habitat be asked to provide all of their management information, appraisals for their income restricted properties, in addition to those properties where there's government funding, and have that isolated so that we know how they manage these type of properties that they're proposing to build here, so that we have complete transparency in what we're getting with them, and excluding any evaluations from their higher end luxury properties, because there's different dynamics involved in managing each. Thank you.
Thank you. So if you guys can loop back on that. At a later time.
At a later time? Great.
Thank you.
I'm Sue Fritz, still at 433 Cherry Street. To touch on the Habitat for Housing, we still need affordable housing. It's really disappointing none of you have dealt with this. There's no committee. We can put together a committee to deal with our garbage pickup, but we can't put together a committee to deal with the housing. And our businesses need workers. Our workers need affordable housing. Many of them are youngsters coming from Covert and outside our area that need affordable housing. When I mentioned I had a short-term rental from Memorial Day to Labor Day, I was assessed by the city to pay a $500 guest registration fee. My house is not a guest rental. I live there. They're more than 30 days. They're not short-term. And the response from the city management was, well, maybe we should fee our long-term rentals. And I don't think this is needing to be such a fee-happy city. I think we want less government. If you want to bring solutions, we would welcome it. But more fees and more regulations and more dictatorship and more expenses is not what I'm hearing our public say we need. It's really disappointing that you haven't put the seniors that's having trouble paying the high expense of living here with youngsters that need rooms to rent in affordable housing. And it's really sad that we have no solutions on affordable housing. It hurts our businesses, it hurts our community. And I've seen absolutely no action from anyone in this community. And so we're starting a new Facebook page. It's South Haven Housing Solutions. I think the last thing in the world they're going to want is more fees. They're looking for solutions in affordable housing. And there's been a lot of chat out there on the South Haven chat line on these fixed utility fees and the high expense of living here. So you all need to deal with all of that as well. It's a very great community and a very expensive community to live in. And it would be nice if we dealt with some of our issues other than just garbage. Thank you.
Have a good evening. And just so the public's aware, we have a variety of committee meetings and whatnot on housing. It's been our top priority for several years now, so feel free to be in contact with any of us if you've got any questions. It's also on our city webpage. So on that note, I think we are up to, oh, sorry, anybody else? I think I'll say everybody here. City manager comments.
I'll keep it brief because we're not done yet.
Amen.
I just want to thank to the DPW and police. Thanks for all their work. I think Blueberry Festival, while it was scaled down, we did have a lot of people in town, and it went off pretty smoothly. I do want to let everyone know we have the upcoming Salute to Veterans this upcoming Saturday at noon, honoring first frontline workers and veterans. So those are my comments.
Perfect, thank you. Council comments.
Real quick and brief too, as well, as far as the commercial rehabilitation district, I feel I need to speak on that. My concern and why I didn't bring up the motion was more on the boundary areas. And I want to show my support for Bundy's Bakery, but I did have an issue with how the boundaries were drawn, and out of every conflict in the whole conversation, one thing was common, and that was Bundy's Bakery didn't want the residential included in the boundary, and the residents didn't want to be included in the boundary. That was the only commonality in the whole thing. So for me, it was the drawn district, and we're forced by certain rules, state laws, and everything else. So I just wanted to show support for both sides, and that was why I did not make a motion to proceed with it. That's all I have for tonight. Thanks.
Well said.
In my comment, with the changing of the trash providers, it's going to be a big learning curve. Ms. Housley had some great comments about the mattress. She used that mattress. So it's definitely going to be a learning curve where they're going to have to communicate, and Griffin's nodding, so I'm sure that it's all planned. You mentioned a website, and so yeah, we'll be definitely having some teaching going on for our community as we make this transition.
Good waves.
That's
Yes,
my only
sir.
comment.
Chris.
I totally agree with Steve. I definitely want to support Bundy's, and I can understand where people are coming from. I would like to see us, if there's other options to pursue for Bundy's, if that's something we can do. I'm excited to know I can throw out mattresses. So I've got a lot of them, and I just got to learn to wrap them up. So
there you go.
That's it.
No comments tonight.
Very good. Joe.
I start off by talking about the trash and the increases, and I'll stand by that. I've never seen so many increases in a short period of time. But I will say one thing about their service. Never, ever, the properties that I own have ever had a problem with the trash pickup. They were excellent. So I will give them that. I just worry about the cost increases. But that's me, because I'm always watching cost. The Blueberry Festival, I was fortunate enough to be a volunteer with the Kiwanis and Rotary. I was mixing the batter, and I've never seen so many happy people and so many generous people come through and get pancakes, and a lot of people paid more than the $10 and let the Rotary and Kiwanis keep the difference. So that was very generous. Special thanks to our police and our fire department, and I thought he made a great point when I asked, should we have the fire department continue to do inspections on short-term rentals? And he, even though it's self-serving, he said yes. I don't like the idea of having a third party doing it. I think safety is paramount. And I'm sorry I don't know your name, but the person who spoke up about trying to do something for affordable housing, I'm sitting here stunned. It has been, like the mayor said, it's our priority. We've been working on Overton, and we did have a committee of 13 people from the community, including in that neighborhood and all surrounding it, and a couple of us sitting up here were on that committee. And we looked at the different developers, and we analyzed it, and we all came up with a unanimous decision. And there's not a week that goes by, and I can speak for myself, that I don't talk to someone about Overton, or I don't talk to people at Habitat. I am very much involved, and I want more than anything to have affordable housing in this community. Thanks.
Very good, thank you. Yeah, just to reiterate to the DPW staff, thank you to them for, we had a pretty good storm last week. We had neighboring communities that have had power out for a couple days, and we did very well in town, so thank you, Bill, and your staff. I know we're providing, a couple of our linemen are providing mutual aid down in Sturgis, so thanks to them for helping a neighboring community. Glad we're able to do that, and we do not need any help right now. Yeah, Blueberry Festival, fantastic. I also had a chance to help out with the Rotary and the Kiwanis. Nice to see those two groups work together. That was a lot of fun down there. So nice to see people again out and about. And again, thanks again to Bobby Walker. What a fantastic tournament. If you've never been down to the tournament, I would encourage you to go down on Fridays. Bobby recognizes a lot of individuals, community folks, police, fire, you name it. Just an outstanding man. And if you ever haven't been there, I would get down there. And I will echo what has been said about the Bundy's Bakery to the Shizen, with that property regarding that district. Agree wholeheartedly. You know, had it been drawn in before, I would have been supportive. At the end, if you look hard at our initial creation of that district, downtown, we're looking at blighted property, we're looking at Hales. You know, we've looked to expand that out the M140 corridor. It makes sense, and I just couldn't support as it was redrawn. So on that note, we are going to end our meeting, our live broadcast right now. We are going to close session. At that time, prior to that, we're going to end up closing the meeting down. So we'll end it now. So
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second to go into closed session. This is a roll call.
Campbell,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Schlack,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. Let's go into closed session. Want 2 minutes?
Yep.
Maybe 2.5. All right. Chance to get everybody out of here?